Audiobook Top, your new home for the finest selection of audiobooks available anywhere.
Listen closely, for the genesis of true horror often unfolds not in shadows or ancient crypts, but within the fervent chambers of the human mind, where ambition, untamed, dares to challenge the very fabric of existence. Our tale, a chilling testament to such audacity, begins in a world teetering on the cusp of scientific enlightenment, yet still haunted by ancient fears. Imagine, if you will, the young Victor Frankenstein, a brilliant, isolated soul, consumed by a singular, overwhelming drive. He envisioned himself not merely as a scholar, but as a conqueror of death, a bringer of new life, a titan capable of wresting the most profound secrets from nature's reluctant grasp. His laboratory, a sanctuary of forbidden experiments, hummed with a manic energy, lit by the flickering gasps of storm-driven lightning. He saw beyond the decay, beyond the grotesque fragments of mortality he painstakingly collected, seeing instead the promise of a perfected being, a testament to his unparalleled genius. He toiled with a feverish intensity, his senses dulled by exhaustion, his moral compass skewed by an intoxicating vision of triumph. Nights blurred into days, punctuated by the relentless drizzle against his window and the ominous crackle of his arcane machinery. Patchwork flesh, meticulously joined and imbued with a semblance of form, lay upon his slab, awaiting the spark. It was a creation born not of love or compassion, but of intellectual pride, a desperate craving for notoriety, and an almost pathological isolation from the gentle rhythms of human connection. Then came the moment, that fateful, dreadful dawn. Amidst the lashing rain and the groaning winds, a galvanic current surged, a shudder, a twitch, and then the dull, yellow eyes of his creation slowly, agonizingly opened. A breath, ragged and alien, escaped its monstrous lips. In that instant, Victor's dream did not blossom into glory, it curdled into an absolute, soul-shattering nightmare. The beauty he had so arrogantly designed was an abomination, a colossal, grotesque parody of humanity, its stitched features stretched into a terrifying mockery of life. Terror, primal and overwhelming, seized him. It was not the awe of a creator beholding his masterpiece, but the visceral revulsion of a child confronted by its own misshapen toy. He had dared to play God, and his creation was, in his eyes, an unholy affront. His response, not acceptance, not guidance, not even curiosity, but utter selfish, unthinking flight. He fled from the very life he had conjured, abandoning it, helpless and bewildered, in the chill of a new, bewildering existence. Consider this, then, as the heart of our dark saga in that solitary chamber, amidst the lingering scent of unnatural birth, who truly became the monster. Was it the newly awakened being, stumbling into a world that immediately recoiled from its mere appearance, denying it even the most basic flicker of understanding or compassion? Or was it the terrified creator, who by his very act of revulsion and desertion, doomed his progeny to a life of utter solitude and uncomprehending anguish? The answer, my friends, is not as simple as it seems, and it is here, in this initial act of creation and cruel rejection, that the true horror of our story irrevocably begins. Gather round, my friends, closer now, for I wish to share with you not merely a tale, but the very genesis of a fear that has haunted the human imagination for generations. Imagine, if you will, a summer in the distant year of 1816. The air in England was chill and damp, but in Switzerland, by the shimmering expanse of Lake Geneva, a different kind of storm was brewing. A storm both without and within. Picture a villa, Diodati, cloaked in the gloom of incessant rain. Within its walls, a remarkable company had gathered: the flamboyant Lord Byron, his young physician Dr. Polidori, my own brilliant Mary Shelley, and I, Mary. The wind howled, the lightning flashed, and the very elements seemed to conspire to keep us indoors, huddled by the warmth of a flickering fire. It was during these long, storm-bound evenings that Byron, with a mischievous glint in his eye, proposed a challenge, a ghost story from each of us. Simple enough, one might think. But oh, the agony! My mind, usually teeming with narratives, felt like a barren heath. Ghosts, specters, apparitions, they had all been done, their spectral fingers too familiar to truly seize the soul with a fresh terror. I longed for something truly novel, something that would not merely chill the blood, but curdle it, something that would make the reader dread to look round, lest the very shadows spring to life. For days I searched, I pondered, I despaired. The phantom of the truly original eluded me. Yet our conversations, deep into the night, were fertile ground. Percy and I spoke often of the principle of life. What was it? Could it be rekindled? Could the animating spark be given to inanimate clay? The recent discoveries in galvanism, the idea that electricity could jolt muscles into movement, fueled these speculative fires. What if, we mused, one could assemble the parts, bestow the spark, and create life itself? Then, one night, the inspiration struck not as a gentle muse, but as a waking nightmare. My eyes were closed, yet I saw him a pale student of unhallowed arts, kneeling beside the thing he had wrought. He had given life to a monstrous collage of human parts. It was grotesque, horrifyingly animate. I saw the hideous phantasm of a man stretched out, and then, with a shuddering half-animation, it stirred. Its dull, yellow eyes opened slowly, fixing their gaze upon its creator. The horror of it! The student, now terrified, fled from his creation, hoping to escape the life he had so recklessly bestowed. But the creature followed asterisk. It stood by his bedside, drew aside his curtains, and gazed at him with eyes that spoke of profound and terrible expectation. This, my friends, was the spark. This was the moment the modern Prometheus was conceived. And why the modern Prometheus? Because, like the ancient Greek titan who dared to steal fire from the gods to gift to humanity, Victor Frankenstein would dare to steal the very secret of life. He, too, would become a creator, a giver of a terrible flame. But just as Prometheus was chained and tormented for his transgression, Frankenstein would find himself bound, not by chains of iron, but by the unbreakable ties of responsibility to the life he had unleashed. His suffering would be a testament to the perils of unchecked ambition, to the chilling consequences when human ingenuity oversteps its ethical bounds and usurps the role of the divine. This story, born of a single terrifying vision in a storm-swept villa, was not merely meant to frighten. It was meant to provoke, to question, to warn. It asks us, even today, what happens when we pursue knowledge without wisdom, when our creations turn to haunt us, and when the very act of giving life inadvertently brings about unimaginable suffering. It is a timeless echo of that fateful night, a profound meditation on the dangerous dance between discovery and accountability. Imagine, if you will, the endless expanse of a world forged from ice and silence, a realm where the very air stings with an exquisite chill, and the horizon stretches, unbroken, into a promise of the unknown. It is here, at the very edge of human endeavor, that I, Robert Walton, found my true calling, my soul's unwavering beacon. From childhood, the tales of polar voyages ignited a fervent, almost unholy ambition within me. I dreamed not of mere passage, but of unlocking the magnetic secrets of the North, of discovering a fertile land shrouded in eternal light, a paradise lost amidst the desolation. My early ventures, born of a thirst for poetry and the sublime, faltered. But then, a legacy granted me the means, and I dedicated myself, with every fiber of my being, to mastering the arts of navigation, of science, of the very craft needed to bend this formidable frontier to my will. And so, my brave ship, her timbers groaning under the relentless pressure of the frozen sea, pushed northward, each creek a testament to our resolve. The scenery, the scenery! It was a vision of such terrible beauty, such immense grandeur, that it humbled the soul even as it invigorated the spirit. Towering cliffs of ice, shimmering like cathedrals of crystal, reflected the pale sun in 1,000 facets. The aurora borealis danced above us, a celestial ballet of emerald and amethyst, reminding us of the universe's artistry and our own insignificance. Yet, amidst this breathtaking spectacle, a peculiar ache resided within my breast. Oh, I had a crew loyal and stout-hearted men, but not one soul amongst them possessed the capacity for true fellowship, for that profound connection of intellect and sentiment that I so desperately craved. My heart yearned for a friend, a kindred spirit to share in my triumphs, to console me in my disappointments, to elevate my thoughts beyond the mundane. I am, by nature, an enthusiast, one who thrives on the exchange of ideas, and to journey into this ultimate wilderness without a companion to truly understand, truly empathize, felt like a void within my very being. This solitude, profound and chilling as the Arctic air itself, became my constant companion, a silent witness to my grand aspirations. We pressed on, the ice closing around us, a shimmering prison that yet held the promise of ultimate discovery. The days grew long, the nights brief and ethereal. Then came a peculiar warming, a thaw that seemed unnatural, and in its wake the ice, once solid, fractured. It was a perilous situation, yet one that, in retrospect, appears ordained. For one morning, through the shifting mists and glittering floes, a sight so strange and startling met our eyes. A dog sled, immense and swift, guided by a figure of superhuman stature, raced northward, disappearing as quickly as it had appeared. We gazed, bewildered, at the vanishing speck, certain we had witnessed a phantom. But the Arctic holds many secrets, and often reveals them in the most unexpected ways. Only hours later, the ice having reformed around our beleaguered vessel, we heard cries, faint, desperate pleas carried on the biting wind. There, amidst a tiny fragment of ice, barely clinging to life, was another man. Not the colossal figure we had glimpsed, but a man nonetheless, emaciated, half-frozen, and on the verge of death. We rescued him, of course, with all the haste and care we could muster. His frame was shattered, his body ravaged, but in his eyes burned a fierce, untamed intellect, a spark of the same fervent ambition that drove my own soul. He was a man of noble mien, despite his wretched condition, and his first words, an inquiry about the direction of the giant sled, confirmed the reality of our earlier vision. Here, then, was my chance, perhaps, for that companion I had so longed for, a man who had traversed the same forbidding wilderness, a man whose story, I instinctively felt, held the key to the very mysteries of ambition and isolation I pondered nightly. He was a wreck, yes, a shadow of himself, but in his gaze I saw a history of unparalleled suffering, and a story waiting to be told. Little did I know, his tale would soon overshadow all my dreams of exploration, transforming my understanding of humanity and its perilous pursuit of knowledge forever. Ah, Geneva! Not merely a city, but the very cradle of my cherished memories. My infancy, a tapestry woven with unwavering affection, a veritable paradise. My parents, blessed souls, viewed their offspring not as heirs, but as a sacred trust, a garden cultivated with care. My father, with his integrity and benevolence, still carried echoes of industry, finding solace in my mother, Caroline. She, too, possessed a heart filled with tenderness, rescued from misfortune to become our household's sun. Their union, born of gratitude and ripened into love, painted my childhood with hues of perfect contentment. And then, Elizabeth. Oh, Elizabeth, an angel. My mother, on a charitable expedition, discovered her a child of celestial beauty, amidst squalor in Italy. Her origins shrouded in mystery, her destiny intertwined with mine. My mother, seeing her beauty and noble spirit, brought her home. A beautiful cousin who will one day be yours, she declared. And so Elizabeth became mine. Not merely a sister, but a treasured possession, an ethereal being I adored. She was the star around which my young world revolved, her gentle spirit a balm to my fiery temperament. Our days were a seamless blend of companionship, her placid sweetness tempering my passions, her understanding a mirror to my thoughts. But a man's world is rarely complete with just one star. Our orbit soon welcomed another, Henry Clerval. Henry, my truest friend. His was a soul steeped in romance and valor, captivated by narratives of heroism, the moral complexities of human existence. While I, even then, found myself drawn to the hidden springs of nature, the universe's mechanisms, Henry reveled in the pageant of human endeavor, crafting tales of chivalry. He dreamt of conquering worlds through words. Through noble deeds, I dreamt of unveiling life's secrets. We were, in essence, two sides of a coin, each complementing the other, divergences forming a richer tapestry of friendship. Our early years were a constant exchange of ideas, disputes, shared adventures through Geneva and along its tranquil lake. The world, through our eyes, was a boundless realm of discovery. This, then, was the crucible of my youth love, unbounded pure, a companionship kindred and contrasting, a world seemingly devoid of shadow. Every lesson, every book, every shared moment, built upon the foundation of this perfect, serene existence. My parents, desiring my happiness, fostered every inclination. They never imagined the very freedom they granted, the intellectual hunger nurtured, would one day lead their son down a perilous path. Oh, the irony! To be given so much, freely, loved completely, only for those blessings to become the ground for one's undoing. In those halcyon days, surrounded by family warmth and the promise of discovery, the shadow of future sorrows was but an unwhispered breath, unheard amidst the symphony of a perfect childhood. Ah, the bittersweet pang of departure! A young man, barely more than a boy, stands on the precipice of his future. Victor Frankenstein, with the tender farewells of his beloved Elizabeth and dear family still warm on his cheeks, embarked upon his journey to Ingolstadt. A fresh chapter, he thought, a new horizon for knowledge, for growth. But did he sense the tempest brewing on that distant horizon? Did he feel the first tremor of the earth beneath his feet, warning of the chasm that would soon open? The vibrant bustle of Geneva faded into the quiet contemplation of his solitary travel. Ingolstadt, when at last it appeared, was not the grand, inspiring citadel of learning he'd perhaps envisioned. It was a quieter place, earnest and scholarly, yet initially, it felt empty. A strange loneliness settled upon him, a stark contrast to the warmth of his home. His initial foray into university life was, by his own account, a stumble. He presented himself to the formidable M. Krempe, professor of natural philosophy. A man of gruff demeanor and unyielding pragmatism, Krempe listened to Victor's youthful enthusiasm for the ancient alchemists Agrippa, Paracelsus, Albertus Magnus with a dismissive scowl. "Rubbish," he declared, his voice a hammer blow to Victor's dreams. "You have wasted your time upon systems which are now exploded. Modern science, young man, not antiquated sorcery?" Victor left Krempe's chambers feeling chastened, yet with a strange respect for the professor's brutal honesty. Perhaps, he mused, a clearing of the old ground was necessary before new seeds could be sown. But it was not Krempe who would ignite the true, perilous spark within Victor. That dubious honor belonged to M. Waldman, the professor of chemistry. A benevolent-looking man, with a gentle smile and a voice that flowed like a soothing river, Waldman captivated Victor from the moment he began to speak. He spoke of the alchemists, not with scorn, but with a surprising appreciation for their spirit, their tireless quest for the unknown. They were the pioneers, Waldman conceded, who despite their flawed methods, dared to peer into nature's secrets. And then, he painted a breathtaking picture of modern science. Waldman's words were a siren song to Victor's nascent ambition, a thrilling revelation of humanity's ever-expanding power. The ancient teachers, he intoned, promised impossibilities and performed nothing. The modern masters promise very little. They know that metals cannot be transmuted, and that the elixir of life is a chimera. But these philosophers, whose hands possess the power of creation, can command the elements. They can even mock the invisible world with its own shadows. He spoke of scientists as beings capable of probing the very recesses of nature, of unfolding its hidden wonders, even of bestowing animation upon lifeless matter. This, then, was the spark. It was not merely knowledge Waldman offered, but a vision of power, of dominion, of transcending the very limits of life and death. Victor felt a jolt run through him, a lightning bolt of understanding and reckless ambition. The world, which had seemed so vast and unknowable, now lay open, an intricate mechanism waiting to be mastered. Krempe had merely cleared the debris. Waldman had shown him the dazzling, dangerous prize hidden beneath. From that moment, Victor's destiny was sealed. He flung himself into the study of chemistry with a ferocious, singular intensity. Other studies, other pursuits, the very world outside his laboratory, faded into insignificance. M. Waldman, pleased by his pupil's fervent dedication, provided books, guidance, and encouragement, unknowingly fanning the flames of an ambition that would consume them all. Victor felt an almost religious zeal, convinced he was on the cusp of a discovery that would revolutionize humanity. He no longer merely wished to learn, he yearned to create, to forge life itself. The initial loneliness of Ingolstadt was now replaced by the self-imposed isolation of obsession, a necessary sacrifice, he believed, for the immense secret he was about to unravel. This spark, so brilliantly kindled, was destined to ignite a conflagration. Ah, Ingolstadt! A name that, even now, rings with the clang of triumph and the chilling echo of folly. It was there, amidst the dusty tomes and the hum of scientific inquiry, that my intellect, once merely keen, sharpened into a fearsome blade. Professor Krempe's bluster had given way to Waldman's quiet wisdom, and under the latter's gentle guidance, I plunged headlong into the mysteries of natural philosophy. My progress was swift, astounding even to myself. I devoured treatises, conducted experiments with fervent precision, and soon, my reputation among the professors was that of a prodigy, a young man destined to push the boundaries of human knowledge. But a prodigy can also be a fool, especially when gripped by a vision. The very structure of life, the hidden springs that quicken inert matter, became my singular obsession. I spent day and night in the laboratory, my mind a crucible wherein theories melted and fused, seeking the elusive elixir of being. I dissected, observed, speculated. I traversed the boundaries of life and death, pondering the decay that follows the fleeting spark. What power, I wondered, could halt that inevitable descent? What force could bestow life where none existed? Then, like a bolt of lightning illuminating a forgotten path, the answer presented itself. I will not, cannot, divulge the precise method, for it is a knowledge too terrible to be unleashed again upon the world. Suffice it to say, I discovered the means of generating life, of animating dust. And with that discovery, a new, far more dangerous ambition ignited within my breast. It was not enough to merely know this secret. I felt an irresistible urge to act upon it. To bring forth a being, an intelligent creature, into existence. To be a creator! The thought swelled my chest with a pride both exhilarating and terrifying. Why, I could create a new race, a species that would owe its very being to me, that would bless me as its author and source. This dream, so glorious and pure in its conception, quickly became the lodestone of my entire existence. From that moment, all else faded. Family, friends, health, they became mere whispers against the roaring tide of my singular purpose. My studies, once broad and varied, narrowed to this one, all-consuming aim. I secluded myself, shutting out the world, lest any earthly tether pull me from my solitary ascent into the heavens of creation. My workshop, a solitary chamber at the top of the house, became my sanctuary, or perhaps my prison. The work itself was gruesome. To construct a being capable of life, one must first gather the very components of it. And so, I frequented charnel houses, those grim repositories where the remains of humanity lay awaiting their final dissolution. My hands, once accustomed to the delicate instruments of scientific inquiry, now delved into the abhorrent, assembling parts from graves and dissecting rooms. My eyes, once bright with intellectual curiosity, grew dim with the constant exposure to decay and death. My sensibilities, once refined, dulled under the relentless assault of this unhallowed practice. A moral man, a sane man, would have recoiled. A less driven soul would have faltered. But I, alas, was neither. A resistless and almost frantic impulse drove me on. I knew the undertaking was unhallowed, but the allure of my grand vision overshadowed all ethical qualms. My health deteriorated rapidly. My cheeks grew sunken, my eyes feverish, my body racked by nervous tremors. Sleep became a fleeting phantom, haunted by the specters of my ghastly labor. I neglected my nourishment, my sleep, my very self. I was a living corpse, consumed by the fever of creation, a vessel for an ambition too vast for human comprehension. Yet, through it all, the glorious vision persisted. I pictured my creation, perfect and magnificent, standing beside me. I dreamt of being the patriarch of a new race, one that would look upon me with reverence and love. Oh, the blindness of youth! The intoxicating allure of a godlike power. I stood on the precipice of an abyss, believing it to be the peak of Olympus, and with every ghastly stitch, every scavenged bone, every night of fevered toil, I plunged deeper into the very university of obsession, learning lessons I was not meant to know, crafting a destiny I was not meant to wield. The hour of truth, or terror, approached with every tick of the clock. The hour struck. 4 strokes, echoing hollowly through the dripping stillness of the night. A single candle flickered, casting grotesque shadows that danced like phantoms on the laboratory walls. Rain lashed against the panes, a mournful symphony to my sacrilegious vigil. My breath hitched, a knot of dread and exhilaration tightening in my chest. For 2 long years, this unholy quest had consumed me, stripping away joy, friendship, and the very essence of my being. And now, the precipice. I leaned closer, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs. The dull, yellow eyes they opened. A gasp tore from my throat. It breathed, it stirred. A ghastly, unnatural twitch animated those limbs I had so painstakingly assembled. No angelic beauty, no sublime perfection, but a wretched mockery. Its watery eyes, its shriveled complexion, its straight black lips, all coalesced into an image of such unspeakable horror that my soul recoiled. My dream, my glorious vision, had twisted into a grotesque nightmare. It groaned, a guttural sound that seemed to tear at the very fabric of reality. A hand, that very hand I had labored over, reached out, groping blindly towards me. Was it a plea? A desperate yearning for connection? I cared not. The abomination before me was an affront to nature, a perversion of life itself. Revulsion, cold and absolute, gripped me. I fled. Down the stairs, through the silent house, out into the drenching rain, anything to escape the hideous thing that now drew breath by my hand. I found myself in my chamber, but sleep offered no solace. Instead, a tormented dream assailed me. I held Elizabeth, her form radiating health and beauty, but as I kissed her, her lips turned deathly pale, her features dissolved into the decaying corruption of my dead mother. Worms crawled forth from her shroud. My creation had poisoned even my subconscious. I woke with a shudder, the chilling memory of the dream clinging to me, and there it was, looming over my bed, its yellow eyes fixed upon me. Its jaws parted, a low murmur escaping, a sound of yearning, perhaps, but to my terrified ears it was pure menace. A hand, vast and clammy, reached out, as if to hold me. Fear, primal and unreasoning, seized me again. I sprang up, escaping its grasp, and raced out of the house once more, wandering the deserted streets of Ingolstadt until the first streaks of dawn. The morning brought with it a sudden, glorious relief. Henry Clerval, my dear friend, a beacon of human warmth, arrived, a messenger of the natural world I had so brutally abandoned. His cheerful presence was a stark contrast to the desolate wasteland of my soul. But even his laughter could not entirely banish the gnawing anxiety. What if **it* was still there? With a heart pounding with apprehension, I led Henry back to my apartment. I flung open the laboratory door, half expecting to confront the hideous form. But the room was empty, cleaned as if by magic. Relief, sharp and intoxicating, flooded me, followed quickly by a wave of inexplicable joy. I laughed, I danced, a manic delirium possessing me. "My dear Clerval," I cried, "how kind you are to come, how good you are to me!" But this fragile joy was short-lived. The feverish excitement, the prolonged horror, had taken their toll. My nerves, stretched taut, snapped. I collapsed, falling into a violent, protracted illness, a dark, chaotic world of delirium and torment. For many months I hovered between life and death, my friend Henry a tireless guardian, unwittingly tending to a mind, haunted by the specter of its own unholy creation. The monster was gone, but its indelible mark was etched deep within my soul. The nightmare had only just begun. To awaken from a fever's suffocating grip. A fragile return to the world of the living. Yet, for Victor, it was less a homecoming and more a dreaded reunion with the specter of his own making. The shadows that danced on his walls were not merely cast by the flickering lamp, but by the monstrous shape lurking in the deepest recesses of his mind. He lay there, a husk of his former self, every nerve jangling with the memory of that hideous countenance, that unnatural spark of life he had dared to ignite. The illness, they called it a nervous fever, but Victor knew its true name, the sickness of guilt, a contagion festering not in his blood, but in his very soul. It was Henry, dear, steadfast Henry Clerval, who became his anchor in that turbulent sea of despair. Clerval, whose heart beat with a pure, untainted love for all that was good and beautiful in the world. He ministered to Victor with a tenderness that shamed the very depths of Victor's self-loathing. He smoothed his brow, spoke in gentle tones, read aloud from poets who sang of beauty and virtue, not the dark, forbidden knowledge that had consumed Victor. Henry was oblivious to the true cause of Victor's malady, attributing it to overwork, to a scholar's zeal. And Victor, in his terror, fostered that delusion, for to reveal the truth would be to unleash a horror upon his friend, a horror he could scarcely bear to contemplate himself. The days bled into weeks. Victor felt a slow, reluctant return of his strength, yet his mind remained a prison. He dared not venture beyond his chamber, convinced that the moment he stepped into the broader world, that thing he had brought to life would be there, a grotesque mirror of his hubris. Sleep offered no escape. It was a treacherous passage through realms populated by nightmares, where the creature's clawed hand reached for him, its vacant eyes burning with a silent accusation. He would wake drenched in a cold sweat, his heart hammering, the air thick with an unspoken terror. Henry, ever patient, observed Victor's lingering melancholy. "Come, my dear Victor," he would urge, "the spring blossoms call. Let us walk by the lake. Let the sun warm your skin, and the fresh air cleanse your spirit. You have too long been immured in these dusty tomes." He spoke of the simple joys, of the grandeur of the mountains, of the profound wisdom found not in dissecting dead matter, but in observing the living, breathing world. He even coaxed Victor into attending lectures on Oriental languages, a subject far removed from the cold mechanics of creation, a subject that spoke of human culture, of shared stories and shared beauty. Gradually, hesitantly, Victor found a faint flicker of peace in Henry's company, a fragile solace in the gentle rhythms of nature, a momentary reprieve from the relentless gnawing of his conscience. He would force a smile, force a conversation. All the while a watchful part of his mind scanned the periphery, his senses alert for any sign, any whisper, of his monstrous secret. Then, a letter arrived, a breath of home, a tangible link to the world he had so recklessly endangered. It was from Elizabeth, her script as elegant and loving as her heart. She wrote of their family, of his father's health, of her own anxieties for Victor, far away and ailing. And then, a detail, seemingly innocuous, yet it struck Victor like a bolt of ice. "Justine Moritz has returned to us, dear Victor, after her poor mother's passing. She is a comfort, a gentle spirit, Justine." A name intertwined with innocence, with the security of his childhood home. The mention of her, of his beloved family, suddenly brought the enormity of his crime crashing down anew. The creature was out there, a loose cannon, an abomination, and his family, his innocent family, were unknowingly vulnerable. The fragile peace he had begun to cultivate shattered, replaced by an even deeper dread. The sickness of guilt was not gone, it had merely been lying dormant, waiting for a fresh opportunity to claw its way back into his heart. He was bound, inextricably, to the consequences of his ambition, and the chains were tightening. My friends, gather close, for the tale darkens now, like a storm gathering upon the mountains. Young Victor, after years steeped in his forbidden knowledge, felt at last a longing for home. A natural yearning, you might think, for hearth and kin after so long a solitude. He had delayed his departure from Ingolstadt, wrestling with the phantom limb of his dreadful creation, the memory a persistent, chilling whisper. But then, as he prepared to finally embrace the familiar comfort of Geneva, fate, with its cruelest hand, interceded. A letter arrived, its seal broken with trembling fingers, bearing not tidings of joy, but a cold, shattering blow from his father, Alphonse. William, little William, the youngest, the sweet, bright spark of their family, was dead, strangled, murdered. The words danced before Victor's eyes, a macabre ballet of horror, each syllable a dagger to his heart. And the locket, his mother Caroline's miniature, worn by the child, stolen. A monstrous act defying comprehension. The world, which had seemed merely gray, now plunged into an abyss of blackest despair. The journey home was not a passage, but a descent into purgatory. Every mile brought him closer not to solace, but to the crushing weight of this unthinkable tragedy. The sky wept with him, great torrents of rain lashing against his carriage, mirroring the tempest in his soul. Lightning cleaved the heavens, illuminating jagged peaks and the swirling mists of the Jura. He felt an icy dread, a premonition that clawed at his very being, telling him this was not just a family sorrow, but something profoundly connected to his own monstrous secret. Night had fallen thick and heavy when he neared Geneva, the storm still raging. He left his carriage, compelled by an invisible force to walk a short distance, to breathe the air of his homeland, however tainted. He passed the very spot where William's innocent blood had stained the earth, a place now consecrated by grief. And then, a flash, a searing bolt of lightning tore across the sky, momentarily transforming night into day. And there, revealed in that hellish glare, standing before him immense and grotesque, was his creature, the fiend he had unleashed upon the world. The truth struck him with the force of a physical blow, a dreadful clarity that chilled him to the bone. It was not a stranger, not a random act of violence. No, it was his creation. This was the first fruit of his unholy ambition, the first innocent life extinguished by the hand of the being he had fashioned. A primal scream caught in his throat, a silent agony that tore at his sanity. He, Victor Frankenstein, was the true murderer. He had given life to death itself. For a moment, a wild, desperate urge consumed him, to reveal the truth, to shout from the rooftops, to expose the monster. But then, the cold hand of reason, or perhaps cowardice, gripped him. Who would believe such a fantastic, horrific tale? A creature of his own making, animated flesh and bone, now a murderer. They would declare him mad, a raving lunatic, his story dismissed as the ravings of a grieving mind. And so, the words died on his tongue. The truth became a leaden secret, forging an unbreakable chain around his heart. He arrived at last at his family home, a house once vibrant, now draped in the heavy shroud of mourning. His father bowed with grief Elizabeth, a ghost of her former joyous self, and then, the ultimate cruelty. Justine Moritz, their beloved, loyal servant, stood accused. The stolen locket, found inexplicably in her pocket, a damning piece of circumstantial evidence. Victor's heart constricted. Justine, sweet, innocent Justine, framed by his monster, condemned by his silence. He knew her innocence with every fiber of his being, yet he could not speak. He, the architect of this misery, was powerless, bound by the terrible secret, condemned to watch as the innocent suffered for his transgression. The first innocent blood indeed, but not just William's. It was the blood of Victor's own conscience, forever staining his soul. The very air tasted of despair, sharp and metallic against Victor's tongue as he pressed deeper into the glacial heart of the Alps. His soul, a tempest of guilt and a burning thirst for vengeance, drove him relentlessly through the snow-laden passes. The biting wind was a chorus of wails, each gust seeming to carry the ghostly lamentations of his murdered brother, William. Days blurred into a desolate march, his frame, once robust with scholarly ambition, now gaunt, a mere husk animated by a singular, consuming purpose to hunt down the architect of his misery, the fiend he had unleashed upon the world. He stood now, a solitary figure dwarfed by the awesome, indifferent majesty of the Mer de Glace. Jagged peaks scraped a bruised sky, and the vast, undulating glacier stretched before him like a frozen, ancient ocean. A profound silence reigned, broken only by the creak of shifting ice and the frantic thump of his own heart. Then, a movement. A distant, impossibly swift form, scaling the precipice with unnatural grace. Victor's blood ran cold, then surged with a furious heat. It was him. From the swirling mists at the glacier's edge, a figure emerged, colossal and grotesque, yet imbued with a terrible, majestic presence that defied immediate revulsion. It glided towards him, its monstrous limbs carving paths in the pristine snow, its colossal shadow momentarily eclipsing the sun. Victor felt a primordial terror seize him, but it was quickly overshadowed by a righteous fury that threatened to crack his very bones. "Devil," Victor's voice tore through the still air, raw and laced with venom. "How dare you cross my path? Avaunt, vile insect! Do you not fear the vengeance of my arm, which will soon wreak your destruction?" He brandished a pistol, his hand trembling not from fear, but from the intensity of his loathing. "Monster! Fiend! You have murdered the innocent! You have brought desolation upon my house! Wretch, why do you not long for death?" The creature halted a few yards distant. Its features, a patchwork of horror, contorted into an expression that, for a fleeting disorienting moment, seemed to convey not malice but profound, ancient sorrow. Its voice, when it came, was a chilling symphony of power and anguish, resonating with an eloquence that stunned Victor into a petrified silence. "I expected this reception," the creature began, its words perfectly articulated, each syllable a shard of ice on Victor's fevered mind. "All men hate the wretched, how then must I be hated, who am miserable beyond all living things? You, my creator, detest and spurn me, thy creature, to whom thou art bound by ties only dissoluble by the annihilation of one of us. You purpose to kill me. How dare you sport thus with life? Do your duty towards me, and I will do mine towards you and the rest of mankind. If you will comply with my conditions, I will leave them and you at peace, but if you refuse, I will glut the maw of death, until it be satiated with the blood of your remaining friends." Victor could only gape, his pistol lowering almost imperceptibly. This was no mute beast, no mindless destroyer. This was a being of intellect, of feeling, capable of articulating its suffering with a precision that pierced the armor of his prejudice. "Abominable wretch, you would dictate terms to me. You, who have stained your hands with innocent blood, and are innocent, Victor." The creature thundered, its voice rising, echoing across the frozen expanse. "Remember, I am thy creature, I ought to be thy Adam, but I am rather the fallen angel, whom thou drivest from joy for no misdeed. Everywhere I see bliss, from which I am irrevocably excluded. I was benevolent and good, misery made me a fiend. Make me happy, and I shall again be virtuous." The words struck Victor with the force of a physical blow. Adam, fallen angel, the raw, desperate plea for understanding, for a sliver of the empathy Victor so readily extended to others, was almost unbearable. His hatred warred with a sudden, suffocating wave of guilt. Could it be true? Had his own monstrous neglect birthed this monstrosity? "You, my creator, abhor me. What hope can I gather from these loathsome sensations?" The creature continued, stepping closer, its eyes fixed on Victor's, pleading, accusing. "From my creator I demand a companion creature, of the same species and with the same defects as myself. This you must create. Without it, I am forever alone, a pariah in a world that despises me for a form I did not choose. Grant me this, and I will quit the world, and you will never see me again." The chilling demand hung in the air, a desperate bargain offered by a desolate heart. Victor, caught between revulsion and a profound, unsettling flicker of understanding, found himself utterly disarmed. The hunt for vengeance had become a confrontation with his own creation, and in that moment, he realized the true extent of his abandonment, and the chilling price that was now being demanded. The ice underfoot seemed to groan, and Victor felt the very foundations of his moral universe tremble. And so, it came to pass. The hour of unholy triumph, or perhaps, more accurately, the genesis of a boundless, crushing despair. Victor Frankenstein, haggard and wild-eyed, hovered over his monumental, grotesque creation, his breath hitched in his throat, a raw, ragged sound, as the final, terrible current surged through the intricate network of his device. A blinding flash, a crackle that momentarily silenced the storm's fury, and then a stillness. A profound, unnatural stillness. He watched, heart hammering against his ribs, a drumbeat of terror and anticipation. For a long, agonizing moment, nothing. Then, a flicker. A minute, almost imperceptible tremor ran through the vast, inert form. A gasp escaped Victor's lips, a sound caught between triumph and a dawning horror. And then, as if a curtain had been torn away from the very fabric of existence, the creature's dull, watery yellow eye, surrounded by a network of grotesque stitches, slowly, deliberately, opened asterisk. It was not a gradual awakening, gentle like the dawn. No, it was a sudden, violent eruption of being. The breath of life, so ardently sought, so painstakingly manufactured, entered that colossal frame not as a whisper, but as a guttural cough. A convulsive motion rippled through its limbs, a crude, marionette-like jerk. The massive chest heaved, a sound like grinding stone, and a low, inarticulate moan, a sound of nascent confusion and profound distress, escaped its own lips. Victor, for all his intellectual audacity, was utterly unprepared for the sheer, physical reality of his success. The beauty of his dream, the noble vision of a new race, a perfect being, it dissolved like mist before the sun, replaced by an overwhelming, stomach-churning revulsion. The creature, now alive was not sublime. It was repulsive. Its skin, stretched taut and yellow, barely covered the intricate workings beneath. Its lips were black, its teeth a startling white, stark against the dark orifice of its mouth. The creature stirred again, pushing itself up with an effort that seemed to vibrate the very floor. Its head, disproportionately large, swiveled slowly, taking in the chaotic surroundings. The flickering lights, the shadows dancing like specters, the huddled, pale figure of its creator, all a dizzying, terrifying kaleidoscope to its freshly awakened senses. A raw, unformed thought, a nascent spark of consciousness, began to ignite within its vast, uncharted mind. What am I? Where am I? It looked at Victor, its immense, stitched hand slowly, ponderously lifting. A gesture perhaps of seeking, of innate curiosity, of a desperate, newly minted need for connection. Its lips parted further, and another sound, more complex this time, a yearning mix of guttural whispers and raw vocalizations, struggled to emerge. It was a plea, a question, an infant's cry for understanding in a language it did not yet possess. But Victor saw none of this. He saw only the monster, the tangible proof of his hubris. The extended hand, which might have been a reach for succor, became to his fevered mind a predatory claw. The nascent sounds, a babble of infant fear and wonder, became an ominous growl. A scream tore from Victor's throat, not of triumph, but of pure, unadulterated terror. He stumbled backwards, tripping over discarded instruments, scrambling away from the very life he had created. He fled. Out of the laboratory, down the winding stairs, into the storm-swept streets, his frantic footsteps echoing the frantic pulse in his temples. He left it there, alone, a monumental, bewildered infant, struggling to reconcile the sudden, overwhelming reality of existence with the crushing, immediate weight of its creator's absolute, horrified rejection. And as the distant peal of thunder reverberated through the now empty laboratory, the creature, truly, awakened not just to life, but to loneliness, to fear, and to the chilling realization that it was utterly, tragically alone in the world. The birth of a being, and the simultaneous birth of a monster, forged not by its creator's intention, but by his instantaneous, irrevocable abandonment. The biting wind carved canyons into Mont Blanc, but it was destiny's chill, not the cold, that pierced Victor Frankenstein's soul as he ascended. Amidst spectral glaciers, a figure detached itself from ice, his creation. Monster. Victor's raw voice tore through the silence, but the figure it possessed a voice, deep, resonant, eloquent. I expected this reception, it began, words heavy with sorrow. All men hate the wretched. How then must I be hated, who am miserable beyond all living things? No brute, but a being of profound thought, its existence a testament to Victor's abandonment. It spoke of suffering, of a life born into a recoiling world. It recounted its first confused steps, a blinding world, a primal hunger, a hand plunged into fire, learning pain. Oh, how it learned! Its education was not in grand halls, but in prejudiced world's desolate corners. Imagine this grotesque figure, seeking refuge in a hovel beside a humble cottage. Through a crack, a window into a world it yearned for, there lived the de Lacy family, an old blind man, his son Felix and daughter Agatha. Unbeknownst, they became its unwitting teachers, catalysts of its joys and despair. It watched them daily, with an intensity born of utter loneliness. It saw Felix gently teach Safi in Arabian French. The creature, a silent, invisible student, absorbed every syllable, every inflection. Their conversations became its primer's history, governance, but crucially human emotion. It saw love in Felix's eyes, heard Agatha's tender comfort. It observed compassion, generosity, human connections, quiet beauty. It learned of societal structures, property, poverty, lineage. With this dawning understanding came a chilling realization: it was none. It had no family, no history, no possessions, no beauty. It was an anomaly, a solitary horror. Its heart, though monstrous, swelled with admiration and longing, an echo of the humanity that rejected it. Books became its silent mentors. It found Paradise Lost, Plutarch's Lives, and the sorrows of young Werther in a satchel. Through Milton, it grappled with creation, fallen angels, finding in Satan a kindred, outcast spirit. Plutarch taught it of heroes and villains. Werther mirrored its soul, unrequited love's agony, isolation's bitter sting. each page deep in knowledge, illuminating its wretchedness. The creature's intellect, forged in shadows, brought not solace but sharper agony. It understood kindness, only to feel its absence, comprehended love, only to know itself excluded. Its education, meant to illuminate, cast deeper shadows, revealing the vast chasm between its yearning for connection and appearance's insurmountable barrier. You, my creator, it declared to a horrified victor, you are bound to accord me the justice which you owe to every being in existence. Its demand a companion, a female creature, to share its monstrous existence, to alleviate loneliness. A companion, born of the same unnatural hand, its solace in a world that offered none. Its education taught it human sorrow's depths. Now it sought to escape that fate, not alone, but with one who understood. Hearken, dear friends, to a tale born not of the cradle's gentle sway, but of the cold, unfeeling slab, a creature awakened into a world utterly alien, a symphony of sensations assaulting a mind utterly blank. Imagine, if you will, the first gasp of air, not a breath of life, but a terrifying invasion, a searing cold that gnawed at newfound flesh. Light not a welcoming dawn, but a blinding, merciless glare that painted the world in stark, painful lines. Sounds, a chaotic clamor of unfamiliar vibrations, each one a jarring assault. Hunger, a primal, aching void within, a relentless, unfamiliar torment. And the chill, a biting agony that drove this nascent being to seek solace, any solace, from the vast, indifferent expanse that was its birthplace. Instinct, a flickering ember in the darkness of pure ignorance, guided its first stumbling steps. A crude, unformed curiosity propelled it forward, a vague, yearning desire for something warmth, sustenance, understanding. It encountered a humble shepherd, and with an unburdened spirit approached perhaps with an innocent plea for succor. But alas, the mirror of humanity reflected not empathy, but terror. The shepherd, seeing only a grotesque horror, shrieked, striking out, fleeing as if pursued by a demon. The creature, bewildered, hurt, its nascent hope for connection brutally crushed, stumbled onwards. Then came the village, a collection of dwellings promising warmth and community. Again the same horrified outcry, the same malicious blows, the same relentless pursuit, driving it from their midst with stones and curses. Its first interactions with humankind were a baptism of fear and rejection, a cruel testament to the chasm between its innate innocence and its terrifying outward form. Driven by an instinct to survive, to learn, it fled into the wilderness. There, a marvel unfolded, a flickering, dancing orange light, spitting warmth into the frigid air. Fire! What a gift! What a revelation! It extended a cautious hand, reveling in the gentle heat, but learned too, with a swift, searing pain, the duality of this potent force. It was both comfort and destruction, a profound lesson grasped through direct experience. Thus, through trial and error, through suffering and instinct, this being, still unnamed, still unloved, began to piece together the fragments of its existence. It foraged for berries, quenched its thirst from streams, and sought shelter wherever it could find it, a solitary, bewildered outcast learning the harsh curriculum of the world. Its wanderings eventually led it to a small, humble hovel, half buried in snow, a meager dwelling nestled against the wall of a larger, more comfortable cottage. Here a revelation awaited, a beacon in its desolate existence. Through a slender crack in the hovel's wall, a new world unfolded. A world of warmth, of gentle voices, of shared glances, of quiet, unspoken affection. It observed a family, the de Lacys, an old, blind man, a young woman, Agatha, and a young man, Felix. They were poor, often hungry, yet they shared what little they had. Felix would chop wood, Agatha would tend to the hearth, and the old man would play a plaintive melody on his instrument. Their simple acts of love and care, their sorrow and their joy, their struggles and their support for one another, painted a vivid tapestry of human connection, a stark contrast to the creature's own brutal solitude. Night after night, from its hidden vantage point, the creature absorbed their lives, their language, their very humanity. It saw Felix's tender concern for his father, Agatha's patient devotion. It saw the balm of companionship, the solace of belonging. And in that observation, despite the sting of past rejections, despite the terrifying knowledge of its own monstrous appearance, a new, fragile hope began to unfurl within its breast. A hope for connection, for understanding, for a place, however small, within the tapestry of human existence it so desperately yearned to join. Perhaps, just perhaps, if it could learn, if it could understand, if it could bridge the terrifying gap of its physical form, it too might find a sliver of the warmth it witnessed in that humble cottage. This silent observation, this nascent longing, was the quiet prayer of a forsaken heart. Ah, listen closely now, to the most profound of awakenings, an unfolding not of beauty, but of a terrible, searing truth. Picture, if you will, the creature, that grotesque shadow, still lurking, still observing, still a silent, unseen witness to the gentle lives of the de Lacy family. Each day brought new revelations. Each hour etched deeper lines of both wonder and despair upon his tortured soul. The little cottage, once a mere object of curiosity, transformed into a schoolroom for his nascent mind. He watched Felix, the dutiful son, instruct Safi, the gentle Arab girl, in the intricacies of language. And as Felix painstakingly taught, the creature, hidden amongst the trees, drank in every sound, every inflection, every meaning. The words, oh, the words! They were like keys, each one unlocking a tiny door into a world he'd only dimly perceived. He learned of names: father, son, daughter, love, joy, sorrow. He learned of the intricate dance of human emotions, of the simple pleasures of companionship, of the deep comfort found in shared affection. A strange, poignant ache began to bloom in his chest, but with understanding came a terrible, crushing weight. For as he learned of the good in humanity, he also learned of the bad. Felix read from Volney's ruins of empires unfolding tales of ancient civilizations, of noble sacrifices, of grand achievements. Yet these stories were punctuated by narratives of war, of tyranny, of man's inhumanity to man. He heard of the creator, of the creature. He understood the distinctions between beauty and deformity. And then he saw himself. He listened to descriptions of human form, of elegant features, of graceful movements, and he recalled his own reflection in the silent pool, a hideous, fragmented mosaic of stitched flesh and jarring proportions. His heart, that freshly awakened organ, began to swell with a bitterness so potent it threatened to consume him. Adam, the first man, was created perfect, blessed with a mate, surrounded by the benevolent grace of his maker. And he was a solitary abomination, cursed from his very inception, cast out even before he could draw his first breath, loathed by the very hand that fashioned him. Worse even than Satan, that fallen angel, for Satan at least found companions in his misery, a legion of fellow outcasts to share his eternal damnation. The creature, however, was utterly, singularly alone. Yet a fragile tendril of hope, born of his observations of the de Lacy's inherent goodness, clung precariously to his desperate soul. Surely, he reasoned, these kind souls, whose compassion extended even to a foreign stranger like Safi, whose hearts overflowed with familial love despite their own hardship, surely, they would see beyond the monstrous exterior. The old man blind, perhaps he would judge with his heart, not his eyes. He began to plan, meticulously, agonizingly, his approach. To speak to the father first, when the others were away, to appeal to his inner goodness, to plead for acceptance, for a place however small in their world. But even as this fragile hope took root, the monstrous shadow of his reality loomed. For if this last, desperate plea were to be met with the same revulsion, the same abhorrence that had defined his brief, tormented existence, then what? What remained for a creature such as he, but to turn the very world that had cast him out into his enemy, to declare war on the very race that had branded him a monster? The seeds of vengeance were sown, watered by profound loneliness, nurtured by bitter envy, and warmed by the icy sun of utter despair. The quiet, hidden observer was slowly, irrevocably, transforming. Within his hovel, the unseen observer was consumed by a ravenous hunger for knowledge, for connection, for answers to the baffling misery of his own existence. Day by day, he drank in the world of the de Lacys. Their simple acts, Felix's devotion, Agatha's gentle grace, old de Lacy's blind wisdom, were the scriptures from which he learned the language of humanity. Each syllable, painstakingly deciphered, opened new vistas into emotions vaguely sensed: love, sorrow, indignation, joy. He saw the power of a shared smile, the comfort of a whispered word. He yearned for it, with a longing that twisted his very being. Books became his next tutors, more potent even than the humble cottagers. Plutarch's heroes instilled fleeting admiration, only to deepen his despair at his monstrous disfigurement. The sorrows of Werther unveiled the exquisite pain of unrequited love and the destructive power of feeling, mirroring the desolation beginning to fester within his own breast. But it was Paradise Lost that truly tore open his soul. In Adam, he saw a beloved creation cherished, granted a companion. In Satan, a rebel reviled, yet not utterly alone. Where did he stand? An Adam without an Eve, a Satan without even a legion of devils. He was unique, singular, damned to solitude. Then came the discovery, small, innocuous, yet brimming with venom. Victor Frankenstein's journal. With trembling hands and a heart heavy with dread, he pieced together the fragments of his origin. No divine spark, no loving hand, but a creator repulsed, horrified by his own handiwork. He was not a son but a fiend, a cursed experiment, an abomination. The words, penned in revulsion, scorched his nascent hope. He understood then the full, terrible extent of his isolation. An outcast, not by choice but design. No gentle voice would soothe his monstrous form. No loving gaze meet his own without recoiling. The world had taught him language, love, history, and finally, self-loathing. He had seen the tender bonds that knit human families, the solace of companionship. With this crushing knowledge, a new terrible conviction solidified within him, a burning, undeniable need that transcended all logic, all fear. He, the unloved, the abhorred, the singular anomaly, could not endure this solitary damnation. His creator, who brought him into this agony, owed him more than mere existence. Owed him a kindred spirit, a reflection, a solace, a companion, crafted as he was, to share his exile, alleviate the crushing weight of his profound loneliness. This conviction, born of torment and revelation, was not yet a spoken plea, but a formidable force stirring within his anguished soul, a demand, terrible in its nascent necessity, already finding its inexorable voice. From my hovel, unseen and unheard, the de Lacy family's drama was my sole instruction, my university of human emotion. Each day, Safie's tongue and Felix's patient tutelage grew clearer, weaving understanding within my nascent mind. I observed their gentle interactions, tender glances, shared sorrows, and the quiet joys that flickered through their impoverished lives. They were a beacon illuminating humanity's best. One bleak afternoon, as wind howled around their cottage, I watched Safie weep. Her silent tears traced paths of sorrow. Aguithe embraced her. Old de Lacy's hand rested paternally, and Felix, with a heavy sigh, recounted the tale binding them in desolate exile. Then, the scales truly fell from my eyes, revealing not only beauty but brutal injustice in the human condition. Felix spoke of Safie's father, a prosperous Turkish merchant, unjustly imprisoned. My heart, a strange, swelling organ, felt a pang of sympathy. Felix, driven by justice and love, had attempted the merchant's escape. A noble, selfless act, I thought, surely one mankind would laud. But alas, the world did not always reward virtue. Felix's daring plan was discovered. His revered father and angelic sister Aguithe were condemned. Stripped of wealth, name, and homeland, they were banished, reduced from esteemed citizens to penniless wanderers, victims of a vengeful system punishing benevolence as a crime. As Felix's voice trembled with their ruin, I felt a new emotion, cold and sharp indignation. How could such goodness meet such cruelty? I saw in their plight a reflection distorted of my own. They were victims of circumstance, prejudice, of a world refusing their true worth. And I, too, was an outcast, judged before speaking, condemned before living. Safie, I learned, had followed Felix, forsaking her father's wishes for independence and love. Her bravery, her steadfast affection, deepened my admiration for her and for the family. They embodied resilience, unwavering love facing immense suffering. Yet absorbing these narratives, a chilling realization settled within me. Humanity, capable of profound kindness and devotion, was also capable of monstrous cruelty and injustice. The de Lacys, epitome of goodness, were crushed by the society they served. What hope, then, for a creature such as I, born into ugliness and solitude, with no family to champion my cause, no history but my silent, horrific creation? My learning was complete, yet brought profound, unsettling sorrow. The world, a complex tapestry of light and shadow, made me, a solitary thread, feel growing apprehension. To yearn for connection in such a perilous landscape felt foolish, a promise of pain. This vital knowledge weighted my soul with a profound, reluctant understanding of my precarious existence. And so, my listener, our tale unfolds further, deeper into the shadows of a heart yet unhardened, a mind yet uncorrupted by bitter experience. He, the being fashioned from ambition and flesh, lingered still in the unseen corners of the humble cottage. Day upon day, season after season, the lives of the de Lacy family were laid bare before him, a living tapestry from which he gleaned the very essence of human existence. He watched Felix, tireless and devoted, tilling the soil, his brow furrowed with honest toil, his eyes alight with love for Agatha and his aged father. He saw Agatha, gentle and kind, tending to her brother, her voice a balm, her touch a comfort. He heard their laughter, their songs, their hushed conversations in the twilight. From their mouths, he learned not just words, but the sentiments that gave those words wings. He began to grasp the intricate dance of joy and sorrow, the fierce pull of kinship, the quiet dignity of endurance. He learned of wealth and poverty, of power and subservience, of the vast, often cruel, history of humankind, a history that spoke of both sublime artistry and unimaginable barbarity. The books he found, discarded by the wayside, became his most potent teachers. Oh, how they whispered secrets to him! Plutarch's Lives unfurled before his eyes the grand sweep of human endeavor, the noble deeds and the ignominious downfalls of heroes and tyrants. He marveled at the courage of the ancients, yet recoiled from their bloodlust. He saw the potential for greatness, but also the pervasive stain of injustice that seemed to cling to even the most glorious tales. Then came the sorrows of young Werther a torrent of emotion that shook his very core. He saw in Werther's unrequited love and eventual despair a reflection, albeit distorted, of his own nascent yearning for connection, for acceptance. He understood then the exquisite agony of desire unfulfilled, the crushing weight of loneliness. But it was Paradise Lost that truly tore at the fabric of his understanding. This epic, this magnificent tragedy of creation and fall, resonated with him on a level far deeper than mere narrative. He recognized in Adam the first man, perfect in his design, blessed with a companion, and beloved by his creator. And in Satan, he saw a terrible kinship, a being cast out, reviled for his appearance, rebellious against his maker. He wrestled with these parallels, feeling both Adam's potential for grace and Satan's bitter despair. Who was he? Adam, beloved yet fallen, or Satan, condemned from birth? He turned these thoughts over and over in his cavernous mind, his heart swelling with a bittersweet hope. If he could learn to speak, to reason, to express the tenderness he felt for the de Lacy family, surely they, who were so kind, so virtuous, would overlook his hideous form. Surely, they would see the soul within. Then, amongst his hidden treasures, he found it. A small, leather-bound volume filled with strange, minute characters. Not a story, not a history, but a journal. His journal. The journal of his creator. He deciphered the words, slowly, painstakingly, each letter a drop of poison, each sentence a shattering blow. He read of his conception, of the unnatural materials, the midnight labors, the feverish haste. He read of the moment his eyes first opened, of the unspeakable horror that had seized his creator. Devil, wretch, hideous monster. The words seared themselves into his being, branding him with a mark of indelible shame. The illusion shattered. The hopeful dream of acceptance, so carefully nurtured through months of patient observation, crumbled into dust. He was not Adam, beloved of God. He was not even Satan, a proud angel fallen. He was a nameless, formless abomination, detested and abandoned by the very hand that had fashioned him. His origin was not one of divine creation, but of human revulsion. He was a creature of darkness, brought into a world of light only to be cast into the deepest shadow by his own maker. And in that moment, the journey into darkness truly began. The world which he had begun to love and understand, now mirrored the horror he felt within himself, a mirror reflecting only monstrous isolation. The icy wind of the mountains often carries more than mere chill. Sometimes it whispers tales of profound desolation. High amidst the desolate peaks, Victor Frankenstein found himself cornered, not by the precipice, but by the relentless, articulate anguish of his own creation. You, my creator, the creature's voice rose, raw with suffering, have cast me out into a world that reviles me. Every hand raised in fear, every eye that recoils in disgust, these are the fruits of your abandonment, the ceaseless, burning agony of solitude. He painted a vivid canvas of his lonely existence, the fleeting moments of observing human kindness only sharpening the blade of his own isolation. He recounted the de Lacy cottage, the stolen fragments of knowledge, the crushing blow of their rejection. Then, with a chilling, self-justifying sorrow, he confessed to the murders. When I saw the child, innocent, untainted, my heart swelled. But then, the curse of my existence revealed itself. He called me monster. And Justine, a victim of circumstance, a tool for my vengeance against you, my creator, who left me to this torment. My crimes are monstrous, yes, but born of a despair you cannot fathom, a despair you, and you alone, planted within me. Victor, initially paralyzed by horror, felt a flicker of something akin to a terrible understanding. The creature, though vile, was undeniably a product of his own hands, his own hubris. The narrative shifted. A demand came, not a request, but a desperate, logical plea for redemption, for connection. Grant me a companion, a being as wretched and outcast as myself, one who will not flee from my gaze, one whose touch will not recoil from mine. With her, I can flee this cruel world, escape to the vast, unpeopled wilds of South America. There, we will live in peace, harming no one, forgotten by humanity. Without her, I swear upon the very fabric of my tormented being, I will hound your steps, a shadow of your damnation, until your very existence is a testament to my suffering. The words hung in the crisp mountain air, a chilling prophecy. Victor felt a profound revulsion, the thought of creating another such abomination curdling his blood. But the creature's arguments, laced with both raw emotion and cold, irrefutable logic, began to chip away at his resolve. Had he not created this intelligent, suffering being? To deny him this singular, desperate chance at peace, would it not be to condemn countless others to his wrath? Another one, another creature of nightmare. The thought alone sickens me, Victor murmured internally. Yet, the stark choice loomed. Destruction, born of creation, stood at a crossroads. He had unleashed a force that now dictated terms. The creature was not simply begging, he was negotiating from a position of power, the power of immense suffering and an equally immense capacity for vengeance. I ask for nothing more than what you yourself possess, companionship, the creature pressed. I will be kind, I will be good. My vices are the offspring of my solitude. Grant me this, and I vanish forever. Refuse me, and prepare for a war of extermination, a relentless pursuit that will leave your life, and the lives of those you cherish, in utter ruin. With a heavy heart, burdened by the crushing weight of his colossal error, Victor acceded. I consent. But you must swear, by everything sacred, that you will fulfill your part of this bargain. That you will leave Europe forever, that you will never again inflict suffering upon mankind. I swear it, the creature responded, a triumphant, yet chilling undertone in his voice. And when I have my companion my Eve, then shall peace finally descend upon both our tormented souls. Until then, remember, Creator, my eye is upon you. Begin your work. And so, a pact was sealed, not of friendship, but of grim necessity. Victor, now bound by an even deeper chain of responsibility, felt the chill not only of the mountain air, but of a future fraught with the terrifying unknown. He had agreed to create life, once more, to prevent further destruction. But as he turned to descend, a chilling question lingered: could creation truly undo the damage of its own devastating birth? The biting wind still howled through the crevices of the glacier, but within the small, wretched hut, the silence that followed Victor's initial refusal was far more chilling. The creature, a figure of shadowed despair, had recoiled, but his gaze, deep and sorrowful, remained fixed upon his creator, an unspoken plea that resonated more powerfully than any shriek. Hear me, Frankenstein, the creature's voice, though low, carried the weight of ages of solitude. You, my creator, alone possess the power to alleviate my insufferable burden. I am an outcast, a mockery of nature, scorned by all humanity. Every touch, every glance, a dagger to my soul. But I ask not for their acceptance, I ask only for a kindred spirit, one who will not recoil from my hideous form, for she will share it. He gestured vaguely towards the vast, unforgiving landscape outside, a symbol of his isolation. Imagine, if you can, the utter desolation of my existence. I am alone, truly alone on this vast, indifferent earth. No father, no mother, no sibling, no friend. A single being, sprung from your hands, a testament to your genius and my eternal curse. Do you truly believe, Victor, that I desire to wreak havoc upon the world merely for the sake of malice? No, my heart, once filled with nascent benevolence, has been twisted by your neglect, by the ceaseless cruelty of man. Grant me a companion, one who will look upon me without loathing, and I swear, by the everlasting heavens and by the very spark of life you gave me, that I will vanish from human society forever. We will retreat to the vast, uninhabited deserts of South America, to places where no human foot has ever trod. There, in mutual solace, we will live out our miserable existence, harming no one, forgotten by all. Victor, despite his ingrained revulsion, felt the icy grip of the creature's words tightening around his heart. The creature's eloquence, his desperate sincerity, was a terrible instrument. Could such a promise be trusted? Could he truly unleash another monstrous being upon the world, risking untold horrors? The thought of two such beings, perhaps propagating, creating a new race of devils, sent a shiver of terror down his spine. Yet, the alternative, the creature's threat, implied and explicit, to haunt his every step, to destroy all he held dear, was a more immediate, chilling prospect. The image of Justine, of William, flickered through his mind. How can I know, Victor whispered, his voice hoarse, that you will keep this monstrous oath? What if she, too, becomes a creature of malice? What if you both turn upon humanity with a united wrath? My resolve is firm, the creature insisted, stepping closer, his gaunt face etched with an almost human earnestness. My misery has taught me the value of peace, even if it is but a peace shared with another wretched soul. She would owe her existence to you, as I do. We would be bound by a common fate, a shared alienation. The desire for vengeance, for destruction, would dissipate in the warmth of shared understanding. We would be monsters to the world perhaps, but not to each other. We would seek only quiet refuge, a sanctuary from the relentless persecution that has driven me to despair. Victor closed his eyes, his mind a maelstrom of conflicting fears and desperate hopes. To refuse was to condemn himself, and perhaps humanity, to endless torment. To agree was to dabble in creation once more, to become complicit in a potentially greater horror. But the creature's desperate plea for companionship, for an end to his profound loneliness, struck a chord, a faint echo of his own deep-seated desire for connection, distorted and perverted though it was in this hideous context. And then there was the promise of solitude, of an end to the cycle of vengeance. It was a tempting, dangerous solace. "Very well," Victor finally said, his voice barely audible, thick with resignation and an ominous foreboding. "I consent to your demand. But mark this, demon, you must swear, irrevocably, to quit Europe forever, as soon as your companion is created. You and she must leave, never to return. You must promise never to molest humanity again, to live in the utmost seclusion. Break this promise, and I will unleash upon you the full extent of my hatred, even if it costs me my own life." A strange, almost ethereal light flickered in the creature's eyes. A guttural sound, akin to a sob of profound relief, escaped him. He knelt before Victor, a grotesque figure bowing in supplication and gratitude. "I swear it," he declared, his voice trembling with emotion. "By the sun, moon, and stars, by your life and mine, I swear to abide by your conditions. You shall be free, Victor, free from my presence, free from my wrath, once you have fulfilled your part of this bargain. I shall watch your progress, my heart filled with newfound hope, and when she is ready, we shall vanish. This is the price of a broken promise, Victor, a promise you made to me in my creation, to care for your handiwork. Now I ask you to make amends, to mend what you broke." Victor watched him go, a shiver running through him that had nothing to do with the cold. He had made a promise, and he knew, deep in the pit of his soul, that the weight of this new creation, and the dreadful uncertainty of the creature's oath, would haunt him far more than any physical journey. Ah, dear reader, if ever a soul was caught betwixt the devil and the deep blue sea, it was our unfortunate Victor Frankenstein in those days. The world outside his window bloomed, a riot of summer's promise, yet within his breast, a winter's chill had settled, deep and unyielding. His father, ever the picture of benevolent concern, pressed him gently, yet persistently, on the matter of his union with Elizabeth. The years had flown, their engagement and unspoken promise gathering dust like neglected heirlooms. "My dear Victor," the elder Frankenstein would muse, his voice laced with tender expectation, "it is high time we saw you settled, your happiness secured. Elizabeth, bless her patient heart, waits. What further cause for delay could there be? Indeed, what cause?" Victor loved Elizabeth with a devotion as pure and untainted as the mountain snows. To envision a life intertwined with hers, a home filled with laughter, was to glimpse paradise. And yet this paradise was forever shadowed by a monstrous secret, a grotesque specter that haunted his every waking moment and invaded his dreams with icy dread. The creature, his creature, had made a terrible, unholy demand of female companion, a partner in misery, or else, the beast had sworn, he would wreak vengeance on all Victor held dear. The image of a wedding, a joyful celebration, was now a cruel mockery, a vision of bliss corrupted by the looming threat of unspeakable horror. How could he stand at the altar, pledge his undying devotion, and then, on that most sacred of evenings, the very threshold of shared intimacy, embark upon a wedding night, knowing that the price of his happiness might be Elizabeth's very life, or the lives of those he cherished? The thought was a venomous serpent coiling around his heart, squeezing the life from any nascent joy. The wedding night, that sacred culmination of love, became in Victor's mind not a haven, but a battleground, not a sweet beginning, but a terrifying end. He saw it not as a warm embrace, but a chill grave, dug by his own hubris. It was the absolute deadline, the final reckoning, before which he must complete his accursed task. He could not, would not drag Elizabeth into the vortex of his private torment. No, he would first grapple with the beast, fulfill his abominable promise, and only then, if fate allowed, return to claim his bride, purged of the monster's shadow. This, he reasoned, was the only honorable, indeed, the only possible course of action. His absence, his journey to England, would be a pilgrimage of dread, a desperate attempt to create another horror to prevent the ultimate horror befalling his beloved on their wedding night. With a heavy heart, concealing his true, agonizing purpose beneath a veneer of scholarly ambition, Victor announced his departure. He spoke of further studies, of eminent philosophers and scientific discoveries to be made in England. His father, though reluctant, conceded, believing this final intellectual sojourn would clear his son's mind and prepare him for the settled domesticity that awaited him. Elizabeth, though saddened, offered her tender support, her eyes full of trust and quiet longing. How he wished he could confide in her, share the crushing burden that weighed him down, but the words were choked by a terror too profound to utter. He pressed her hand, a silent promise of return, a desperate prayer that he might indeed come back, victorious over the demon he himself had unleashed. And so, Victor embarked, a lonely figure upon the vast expanse of the sea, the salty spray mingling with the unshed tears in his eyes. Every rhythmic lurch of the ship, every passing wave, seemed to chant a dirge for his lost peace. He was sailing not towards knowledge, but towards a dark, inevitable confrontation, a descent into the very hell he had created. He carried not only his meager luggage but the crushing weight of his secret, the monstrous demand, and the terrifying vision of a wedding night stained crimson if he failed. The journey was long, a slow, agonizing crawl towards a future he both craved and dreaded, a future inextricably linked to the grotesque task he now had to undertake in a foreign land. The ghost of that promised wedding night, now a symbol of both hope and horrifying doom, propelled him forward, a tortured soul on an unholy quest. The die was cast, the monstrous bargain struck. I had pledged myself to a task abhorrent beyond words, a second creation, a female counterpart to my first, cursed abomination. My journey northward from London with Henry, my dear, unsuspecting Henry, was a torment. He saw the grandeur of the Scottish Highlands, the soaring crags, the swirling mists, the ancient brooding castles, and his soul, ever pure, sang with poetic joy. But for me, each peak was a scaffold, each valley a grave. My eyes saw only the desolate stage upon which my horrifying drama would unfold. I feigned illness, pleaded weariness, anything to escape the innocent brilliance of Henry's conversation, a brilliance that only magnified the darkness within me. I craved solitude, not for rest, but for the festering silence in which I could wrestle with my demons. My search led me to the remotest parts of Scotland, to the bleak, storm-swept Orkney Isles. Here, among a scattering of fishermen's huts and ancient, wind-swept stones, I found my chosen purgatory, a tiny, barren rock, scarcely larger than a garden, jutting defiantly from the tumultuous sea. It was a place of utter desolation, yet perfect for my secret work. No, I save the sea-birds would witness my unholy labor. I sent Henry to wait in Perth, fabricating flimsy excuses, tearing myself from his gentle companionship, pushing him away from the precipice on which I stood alone. On this desolate isle, amidst the roar of the ocean and the ceaseless howl of the wind, I began my infernal task. The laboratory I fashioned was rudimentary, yet sufficient. Each incision, each stitch, each grafting of limb to limb filled me with a fresh wave of nausea, a profound self-loathing that threatened to engulf me. This new being, a creature conceived in terror and revulsion, was already an object of dread. I saw her nascent form, not as a solace, but as a potential harbinger of yet unimaginable horrors. And then he was there, not always visible but ever present, a shadow among the rocks, a hulking silhouette against the moon. My first creature, my monster, observing my progress, a silent, menacing judge. His eyes, burning with a mixture of hope and vengeful expectation, pierced through my tormented soul. He was a constant reminder of my pact, my inescapable doom. Days blurred into a nightmare tapestry of relentless work and agonizing doubt. As the female form took shape under my unwilling hands, a torrent of horrifying questions assailed me. What if this new Eve refused her Adam? What if, once created, she found her mate as repulsive as I did? And the most terrifying thought of all, what if they did unite? What if they reproduced, propagating a new race of devils upon the earth, a lineage of monsters sprung from my own blasphemous ambition? The consequences unfurled before me, a world overrun, humanity enslaved, all because of my fatal error, my reckless presumption. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drum of terror. This was not redemption, this was a deeper damnation. No, this cannot be. Will not be the architect of humanity's ruin. With a cry torn from the depths of my being, a desperate assertion of what little free will remained, I reached out. The delicate threads, the sinews, the nascent organs, I tore them, shredded them, limb from limb, reducing the grotesque creation to its constituent parts once more. The laboratory, that temple of horrors, became a shambles of broken glass and mangled flesh. A howl, a sound of such profound agony and venomous rage tore through the storm. It was him, my first creation. He had witnessed my act of annihilation. From the window, I saw his contorted face, his eyes burning with infernal malice. The fragile peace I had hoped to achieve, the respite from his vengeance, it shattered into a million pieces. My purpose, my final purpose was not creation but destruction. And in that act, I had sealed my own. My horror was complete, my doom irrevocably pronounced. The Orkney mists clung to me like a shroud, each droplet a tear for the abominable act. My second ill-fated creation lay scattered, a grotesque monument to my broken oath. The wind, a mournful whisper, now shrieked, carrying a sound that curdled my blood, a savage roar of despair and vengeance. He stood there, my fiend, a colossal shadow against the dying light, his face a mask of pure malevolence. "You have destroyed my hopes," he hissed, his voice cutting through the gale, "and I swear I will be with you on your wedding night." The words struck me like a glacier's fist, chilling me to the bone. This was no mere threat, it was a pact with fate, an inescapable decree. The chase had truly begun, not across frozen wastes, perhaps, but through the labyrinth of my own soul, a relentless hunt for every sliver of happiness I might dare to grasp. My monster, unbound by false promise, was unleashed, a polar predator tracking its prey. I worked through the night, a feverish madness driving my hands, dismantling the instruments of my blasphemy, packing the remnants of my scientific hubris into my small boat. I cast off from the desolate shore, seeking escape, any haven from the doom that now pursued me. The waves, initially playful, soon turned treacherous, mirroring the tempest within my breast. The sea became a vast, indifferent hunter, its cold embrace a prelude to the monster's own chilling embrace. For days I drifted, a solitary speck upon an endless, raging canvas of gray and black. The winds howled a mournful dirge, and the rain lashed down, 1,000 icy needles piercing my skin. Hunger gnawed at my stomach, but a deeper, more profound hunger for absolution, for oblivion, consumed my spirit. Each cresting wave seemed to carry the monster's echoing laugh, each trough a descent into my despair. The chase was everywhere, the elements themselves conspiring with my persecutor. I was a fugitive, not merely from the law, but from the relentless grip of my own creation. When land finally appeared, a dark, forbidding line on the horizon, it offered no solace, only a new, more immediate horror. My boat grounded on a strange shore, weary, half-mad with exposure. I stumbled onto the sands to be met by a cluster of grim faces. "Murderer!" they cried. "You are accused of a foul deed." The words were a hammer blow. I was dragged, resisting weakly, to a wretched hovel, and there, before my eyes, lay a corpse. The pale, still face of Henry Clerval stared up, accusing, haunting. My dearest friend, a victim. The monster's chase had reached its first devastating peak, exacting a price far heavier than I could ever have imagined. The arctic chill of my despair deepened, knowing that no flight, no escape, could ever sever the ties that bound me to my relentless, vengeful creation. The hunt was far from over, it had merely claimed its first, precious trophy. Ah, my dear friend, could any man truly fathom the depths to which a soul might sink, only to discover yet lower chasms awaiting? I believed, destroying the female creature on that desolate isle, I had touched the very nadir of human misery. Those grotesque fragments, cast into the tumultuous waves, were meant to wash away my nightmare. But alas, I merely exchanged one torment for 1,000 more. I drifted, a solitary speck in the vast, indifferent ocean. Winds and currents were my only masters. My mind, a chaotic maelstrom of remorse and fear, refused to rest. The creature's menacing grin, his silent threat, haunted every waking moment. Then, as if the ocean conspired with my nemesis, my vessel was driven relentlessly towards an unknown, ominous shore. What awaited me was not salvation, but fresh, unimaginable horror. The instant my weary feet touched the beach, a furious clamor erupted. A crowd, faces contorted by grief and anger, swarmed me. "Murderer! Villain! Justice!" they cried, a cruel mockery to a man already condemned. My protests were drowned out by the local magistrate, Mr. Kerwin, who looked upon me with unyielding suspicion. I was, he declared, apprehended as the primary suspect in a heinous crime. My heart, already bruised, plummeted further when I was dragged to view the deceased. Oh, the unspeakable anguish. The world swam, the air grew thick. There, upon a rude bier, lay the lifeless, violated form of Henry Clerval. My Henry, my sweet noble friend, whose laughter had been the only solace left in my blighted existence. His throat, a ghastly purpled testament to a brutal strangulation, cried out against the heavens. It was the monster's work. His terrible promise, whispered on desolate winds, was horribly fulfilled. "I will be with you on your wedding night." But before that, he had claimed Henry. The shock shattered my fragile constitution. A raging fever seized me, dragging me into a months-long abyss of delirium, a waking nightmare. I raved, I wept, I pleaded with specters. My broken mind endlessly replayed the horrors of my creation and its relentless retribution. An old woman, her face etched with kindness, nursed me through those dark days, a solitary ray of human compassion. When at last the fever broke, the cold specter of the law still loomed. I was arraigned, tried for the murder of my dearest friend. How could I defend myself? How speak of a creature born of forbidden ambition, a secret that would condemn me as mad? My silence, my haunted gaze, screamed guilt. Yet a peculiar twist of fate intervened. Witnesses testified they had seen me far out at sea at the precise hour of the murder. Though my spirit remained irrevocably shackled by guilt, my body was declared innocent, acquitted, free to walk among men. But what freedom was this, when my soul was forever enslaved by the monstrous progeny of my own hands? The creature still lived, a constant, chilling reminder of my fatal error, his malevolent shadow stretching across every moment of my wretched existence. He was Clerval's true author, and though unseen, his presence was more palpable than any visible chains. So, you see, my dear Walton, this is no mere tale of woe, but a profound warning. A warning etched in Henry Clerval's innocent blood, painted in the desolate tears of the damned. To transgress nature's sacred boundaries, to pursue knowledge without wisdom, without deep reverence for life itself, is to unleash forces beyond human control, to weave a tapestry of inevitable, devastating sorrow. Learn from my wretched fate, I implore you, for the consequences of unchecked ambition are a heavy, unbearable cross. Ah, gather close, my friends, and let the flickering lamp cast its long shadows, for tonight we speak of a turning point, a chapter where hope, fragile as spun glass, shattered into 1,000 shards. Imagine, if you will, the weary journey homeward. Victor, a ghost of his former self, broken in spirit and ravaged in body, returned to the gentle embrace of Geneva. His father, good old Alphonse, saw the ruin of his son and wept, not knowing the monstrous secret that gnawed at Victor's very soul. A brief, blessed respite, one might think, but the phantom of his creation clung to him closer than his own skin. He spoke no word of the horrors he had witnessed, the grotesque promise of his wedding night. How could he? How could he burden those he loved with such an unspeakable terror? Then came Elizabeth. Oh, dear Elizabeth, whose love was a beacon in Victor's encroaching darkness. She saw his suffering, his haunted eyes, and in her boundless compassion, she believed their union, so long delayed, might finally bring him peace. My dearest Victor, she pleaded, her voice a balm to his tormented spirit, let us marry. Let our love be the sanctuary you so desperately need. Let it heal the wounds that fester within you. And what could Victor do? A fresh wave of icy dread washed over him. The creature's words echoed in the chambers of his mind, I shall be with you on your wedding night. He believed, in his terrible anguish, that he was the intended victim. He was convinced the monster meant to end his life, to claim him as the ultimate price for the unholy sin of his creation. This was it then, the final reckoning. A grim resolve began to harden in his heart. If the creature sought his blood, he would meet it. He would face his doom head-on alone, lest the monster turn its wrath upon his innocent family. He would marry Elizabeth, yes, but not for solace. He would marry her as a lamb led to slaughter, a sacrifice to ensure the safety of those he cherished. This marriage, he thought, would be the bait, the trap into which he himself would step, shielding them all. So, he consented. With a heavy heart and a forced smile, he agreed to the union that promised only death. The preparations began, a macabre dance of joy and sorrow. The house, usually a haven of quiet domesticity, buzzed with the gentle excitement of an impending celebration. Elizabeth, radiant in her anticipation, spoke of their future, of simple pleasures, of a love that would mend all wounds. Victor listened, his soul a desolate wilderness, his smile a mask expertly crafted to conceal the gnawing terror within. Each day was a step closer to the precipice. Each joyful laugh, each hopeful plan, felt like a cruel mockery. He looked at his father, at Elizabeth, and a profound, wordless farewell settled upon him. This was the last time he would see them, truly see them, untouched by the monstrous shadow that now enveloped his life. He was saying goodbye to the man he once was, to the possibility of happiness, to peace itself. The creature's farewell, then, was not a spoken word, but the inescapable, suffocating grip of an awful destiny, closing its cold hand around Victor's heart, sealing his fate, and with it, the fate of all he held dear. The die was cast. The final act was upon them. Ah, my friends, gather close now, for the tale darkens, twisting into a coil of despair that threatens to swallow even the most steadfast heart. We find Victor, not in his laboratory, but shackled, accused. Clerval's lifeless form, a constant specter in his Irish prison. The man who dared play God, now a criminal, his brilliance dimmed by the fire he ignited. His mind, once a cathedral, became a battleground of paranoia and guilt. He railed against injustice, but deep down, a chilling recognition festered. This was the harvest of his own sowing. The world, once his stage, was now a trap, its walls whispering of his creature's vengeful presence. Then, a flicker of sorrowful light. His father, Alphonse, arrived, his dignified presence a testament to the love Victor had imperiled. Shattered by endless loss, Alphonse sought to mend his son's decline, offering balm. But Victor was too far gone. The trial came swift. Evidence scarce, his mental state so distressed the jury, perhaps out of pity, acquitted him. A free man, they declared. But was he? No. Freedom, for Victor, an illusion. Liberation from the gallows only tightened the chains of his obsession. He walked from that courtroom not with relief, but with a singular, chilling resolve. The monster, the fiend. This creature had stolen his peace, his loved ones, his sanity. Now Victor saw himself not as victim, but avenging angel, his sole purpose to hunt, destroy, eradicate the evil he unleashed. No longer scientist, son, or even truly himself, he was merely a vessel for a burning, relentless vendetta. His body, a frail cage for such violent intent, betrayed him. Fevers, visions, constant mutterings about his sacred mission. His father, witnessing this terrifying metamorphosis, could only despair. They left Ireland, the landscape still stained with Clerval's blood, but the true journey into the heart of madness had only just begun. And what of us, my dear listeners, in these modern times? Are we so different? Do we not allow grievances to fester, slights to become injustices, until they consume us? How often do we cling to the idea of an enemy, real or imagined, letting the pursuit of retribution overshadow all joy, all peace, all healing? Victor's relentless chase, his unyielding focus, mirrors our human tendency to nurture resentments, to define ourselves by battles rather than aspirations. He was haunted by the creature's chilling promise, "I shall be with you on your wedding night." A direct threat, yes, but also a profound symbol. Past mistakes, unaddressed, will inevitably haunt our most cherished moments, poisoning our deepest hopes. He became the hunted and the hunter, bound inextricably to his creation in a dance of death, each step propelled by a twisted sense of justice, in truth, all-consuming vengeance. His life, a tragic opera, now approached its final, harrowing act, where the lines between creator and destroyer, victim and villain blurred. This, then, is the enduring echo of Prometheus's fire, not just the power to create, but the terrible responsibility to nurture, and the devastating consequences of abandonment. And in Victor's escalating madness, we see, perhaps, a reflection of the demons we ourselves choose to feed. Friends, gather close, for tonight we unravel not merely a tale of terror, but a cautionary blueprint, a 7-day descent into the abyss of ambition and its chilling aftermath. Let us call it, for our edification, the 7-day Frankenstein action plan, a perverse guide, if you will, to creating not just a monster, but a legacy of ruin. Ashed Day 1, the seed of solitude and grandeur. Dustrisk, observe young Victor, brimming with the fire of discovery, yet already isolated by his singular vision. He dreams of unlocking life's deepest secrets, of bestowing animation upon inanimate clay. This is the innocent inception, the moment a man dares to believe himself a god. He retreats, not to meditate on the ethical labyrinth he is about to enter, but to hoard knowledge, to fuel an ego that swells with every whispered theory. The plan begins with a fervent desire, unchecked by wisdom or human connection. Strext Day 2, the macabre assembly. Dusk. What follows us is the gruesome architecture of creation. Victor, in his feverish zeal, scours charnel houses and dissection rooms. His hands, once destined for delicate experimentation, now labor in the grotesque collection of fragments, a limb here, an organ there. He builds, not with contemplation, but with a frantic urgency, ignoring the burgeoning horror of his own methods. He becomes a solitary artisan of the unholy, blinded by the impending triumph, deaf to the whispers of his own conscience, which, admittedly, grows fainter with each passing hour. The world shrinks to the confines of his workshop, the stench of decay his only companion. Ask Day 3, the spark of profane life. Then comes the fateful night. The storm rages, mirrors the tempest in Victor's soul. He applies the galvanizing current, the spark meant to imbue inert matter with vital force. And it works. A convulsion, a shudder, an opening eye, hideous, yellow, watery. Life, but not as he imagined. not beautiful, not graceful, but a grotesque parody, a monstrous birth. This is the moment of execution, the plan's triumphant climax, instantly transforming into its most profound failure. The action is complete, but the unforeseen consequence, the very asterisk being asterisk he sought to create, is born into immediate rejection. Chasque day 4 the swift, cruel abandonment here, the plan truly unravels. Faced with the horrifying reality of his creation, Victor does not ponder, does not accept responsibility. He flees. His beautiful dream shatters into nightmare, and his immediate response is not paternal care, but primal revulsion. He abandons his child, his living experiment, to the cold, unforgiving world. This is the critical turning point, the day the architect of life becomes the perpetrator of neglect, sowing the seeds of bitter vengeance in the very being he gave breath. He seeks solace in sleep, but his nightmares are just beginning. Spix day 5 the creature's lonely dawn. Tusk while Victor sleeps, the creature awakens to a world of bewildering sensations, alien sounds, blinding light. Alone, terrified, uncomprehending, it stumbles forth. It learns to see, to hear, to feel the bite of hunger and cold. More critically, it learns the sting of universal rejection. Every human encounter met with screams, stones, and flight. This is the creature's desolate education, forced to piece together its identity from the shards of human cruelty and the profound absence of its creator. It observes, it suffers, and a terrible comprehension begins to dawn. Haas day 6. The plea unheard disc years pass, marked by the creature's suffering and his relentless pursuit of knowledge, of understanding, of asterisk acceptance asterisk. He confronts Victor, not with immediate violence, but with a desperate plea for companionship, for a mate, for recognition of his humanity, however monstrous his form. He offers a pact kindness for kindness, withdrawal from humanity if only one other creature like him could exist. This is the creature's attempt to impose a new action plan, one rooted in shared existence. But Victor, still trapped in his revulsion and fear, refuses. He denies his creation even the meager right to companionship, sealing their shared doom. Ask day 7, the inevitable cascade of ruin. The rejection of the creature's plea ignites the inferno. The plan now belongs entirely to the monster, a plan of vengeance, a slow, meticulous dismantling of everything Victor holds dear. William, Justine, Clerval, Elizabeth, each a domino falling, a consequence of Victor's initial ambition and his subsequent unforgivable abandonment. There is no turning back, no negotiation. The cycle of hatred and suffering, set in motion on day 3, now reaches its terrible, inexorable conclusion. Victor, trapped by his own hubris, is left with nothing but remorse and the hollow echo of his once grand aspirations, eternally pursued by the monstrous shadow of his own making. And so, the plan concludes, not with triumph, but with utter devastation, a testament to the perils of creation without conscience, power without responsibility. Ah, my friend, so we've journeyed through those frost-bitten Alps, peered into the shadowed corners of human ambition, and felt the chill of utter desolation. The storm has passed, the final page turned, but the echoes, they linger, don't they? And as the last embers of our reading fire glow, 3 fundamental truths, like ancient constellations, reveal themselves from the literary firmament of asterisk Frankenstein asterisk. The first, and perhaps most blindingly brilliant, is the perilous dance with Sherisk unchecked ambitions. Picture Victor, eyes alight, a man possessed, driven not by malice, but by the intoxicating scent of discovery, the irresistible urge to unlock nature's deepest secrets. He dreamt of bestowing life, of conquering death itself. But in that feverish pursuit, he forgot a crucial question asterisk should ask he. His brilliance was a torch, yes, but one wielded carelessly, setting fire to the very fabric of existence. He didn't just seek knowledge, he sought glory, a godlike status. And in his haste, his singular focus, he created not a miracle, but a monster, precisely because he never paused to consider the asterisk consequences asterisk of his creation, nor the ethical boundaries he so gleefully hurdled. It's a stark, chilling reminder that power without wisdom, innovation without a moral compass, inevitably leads to ruin. The very act of pushing boundaries requires a deeper sense of responsibility than Victor ever possessed. And from that crucible of reckless ambition, we're led to the second, profoundly aching truth, the desperate, vital human need for empathy and acceptance extisk. Consider the creature himself, raw, innocent at birth, a blank slate hurled into a world that recoiled. Every outstretched hand was met with a scream, every hopeful glance with a shudder of disgust. He was a being forged in loneliness, craving connection, understanding, a single kind face. Had Victor, his creator, offered even a flicker of compassion, a moment of guidance, might the creature's path of vengeance have been averted. The narrative screams of how societal prejudice, fear of the unknown, and a complete lack of fellow feeling can twist innocence into malevolence. It shows us that true monstrousness often lies not in appearance, but in the cold, unfeeling hearts of those who judge, ostracize, and deny basic human dignity. We are all, in essence, creatures yearning for belonging, and to deny that to another is to sow seeds of profound despair. Finally, and perhaps most profoundly, we confront the inescapable responsibility of creation. Victor brought life into the world, an act akin to parenthood, yet he utterly abandoned his charge. He bestowed existence, then shirked every duty that came with it. The creature was his child, albeit one made of parts and science, and Victor's refusal to nurture, educate, or even simply acknowledge him was the ultimate betrayal. This isn't just about scientific invention, it echoes in every facet of our lives. What ideas do we birth? What projects do we champion? What relationships do we forge? What children do we raise? Frankenstein demands that we look unflinchingly at the burdens that come with bringing anything into being. We are accountable for what we unleash upon the world, for its potential for good, yes, but also for its capacity for harm. To create is to commit, to nurture, to guide, and to take full ownership of the outcomes, for good or ill. These aren't mere literary observations, my friend. They are enduring warnings, etched deep within the human experience, pulsating with relevance even today. Frankenstein isn't just a tale of a mad scientist and his monster. It's a mirror held up to our own souls, asking us to reflect on our ambitions, our compassion, and the profound weight of our creations. You've turned the final page. The creature's desolate farewell, Walton's chilling words linger. You've journeyed through icy wastes and intellectual ambition, through creation and tragic rejection. But tell me, have you truly closed the book? Or has it merely opened another, more expansive volume within your own mind, your own world? For Frankenstein isn't a tale to be set aside, it's a timeless question. An urgent whisper demanding answers not just from its characters, but from us. Think of Victor, consumed by the audacious dream of bestowing life. Where do we see his echo today? In AI creators pushing the boundaries of consciousness, geneticists editing existence's blueprint, in technology promising utopia, yet often delivering unforeseen consequences. Are we, too, crafting wonders without fully weighing the moral architectures needed to support them? Building our own creatures, then recoiling in fear or revulsion when they challenge our control, our natural order, our very humanity. And what of the creature himself? Rejected, reviled, labeled monster before he ever had a chance to prove his innate capacity for kindness, learning, love. Is his plight not a mirror to our society, where difference so often breeds fear? Where the other is demonized, cast out, denied the basic dignity of understanding? When do we, like Victor, create the conditions for a monster simply by denying empathy, by refusing the hand of connection? This, my friends, is why the conversation must continue. It's not enough to witness the tragedy unfold within the pages. We are compelled to carry these profound dilemmas beyond the narrative's confines, to discuss them at our dinner tables, in classrooms, at workplaces, to challenge our assumptions, to listen deeply to perspectives that differ from our own, to grapple with the uncomfortable truths Frankenstein lays bare. What are our responsibilities to the things we create, be they technological marvels or societal constructs? How do we foster a world where curiosity is balanced by compassion, where scientific advancement is guided by ethical foresight, and where empathy triumphs over unthinking prejudice? How do we prevent the creation of new monsters, not necessarily of flesh and blood, but of policy, of ideology, of neglect? The story doesn't end with Victor's death or the creature's vanished form into the icy mist. It continues with every thoughtful discussion, every challenging question, every moment of self-reflection that this timeless novel provokes. Your voice, your insights, your willingness to engage with these enduring questions are the fabric of this ongoing dialogue. So, let us not merely close the book, but open our minds and our hearts to the enduring conversation. The future, in so many ways, depends on it. Now, what do you think?